Next up then is a new teen comedy drama with a bit of supernatural thrown in for good measure. This is I'm Not Okay With This, from the producers of Stranger Things and the director of a show Matt and I love to its core, The End of the Effing World. This dropped on Wednesday.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I did not know. I didn't know anything about this when you told me to watch it.
Matt,
So Jonathan Entwistle.
It had a lot in common with The End of the Effing World.
Definitely.
The aesthetics, the episode lengths, a lovely 20 minutes, sometimes less. I wish TV would do that more. A really interesting central performance from Sophia Lillis, who we last saw as the young Amy Adams in Sharp Objects.
Well, she was a young Amy Adams in Sharp Objects and a young Jessica Chastain in It. So she's played young versions of two famous.
Interestingly, I thought they sort of made her up to look like a young Amy Adams, but no, she looks like a young Amy Adams. That's why they cast her. So she plays the central character here. She's struggling in a suburban town. She's a teenager, doesn't really get on with her mum. Her dad hung himself in the basement, and she's struggling to come to terms with that. It's sort of a taboo subject within the family. She's having issues with anger. Her only and best friend has moved on with a boyfriend,
Dina,
and she comes to realise that whenever she gets a little angry, things either break, fall down, or explode around her, and she can give people the occasional nosebleed. There are 8 of these, I believe.
7.
How many? Well, I believed 8, but yeah, 7.
I've watched 2 so far because I was struggling to actually get the second episode to load. So,
first world problems.
I plan to watch more.
I've seen 6, so I've got 1 more left. So
you could have snuck that 7th in there, really. 7's an odd amount.
It is odd. And it's also odd, I know it's weird to mention, but Netflix always drop their new big and exciting things on a Friday so that people have got, the weekend to binge them. And this on a Wednesday, whenever they've done that before, you still think, do they want it to fly under the radar? Are they not that impressed with it? And
they seem to be doing different
discussion about it.
I think I'd heard about this, but I didn't know when you'd said the name, what it was, if that makes sense.
It's also based off a graphic novel.
It is a graphic novel, is it?
From Charles S. Foreman, and it stays very loyal to the original source material, from what I've read. I watched this and then read a lot of the reviews, and a lot of the American reviewers were very they weren't okay with it. If anything, they were lukewarm on it. They said it was more style over substance, which I don't agree with. I thought it felt like its own thing. Yes, it's got DNA of The End of the Effing World, and that's not a bad thing, because that is a brilliant show. And what I remember about it is the characterization and the look and feel and the aesthetic. And the fact they brought this over, I think she was a really, really interesting central character. Cared about her from the first moment.
I found elements of the first episode, and again, I think this was to do with the length. It was a lot to take in 20 minutes.
Yes.
They had to introduce the world, first-person narration from the point of view of Sydney. She had to introduce, this school life where she's the outsider, befriended this character Dina, who was also from out of town, but who had now blossomed and was dating the lead quarter. This is probably what you were getting confused with.
Yes.
This was the football player, Brad Lewis, the very American name. She's lost her virginity to him. She's wearing his jacket now, and this friendship is sort of breaking down. So Sydney befriends sort of a local outcast, very
he's
sort
like
of
he's a neighbour as well.
End of the effing world-esque relationship with this character, Stanley, who works at a bowling alley. He's a very minor sort of drug dealer. His dad's out of the house a lot of the time, and that sort of her sort of gradually coming round to his sort of quirks and things like that. And as you say, there is a sort of supernatural element to this, but not in a sort of overt way. These almost like panic attacks resulting. The first time we see it is when she gives Brad a nosebleed, and then she puts sort of dents in the wall at home. She's out shopping and doesn't have enough money for the shopping, and suddenly destroys like most of the shopping mall, and We don't ever find out who cleans up the grocery store, do we?
That might be the bit in episode 7 where I haven't got to yet, where it starts
But
from the point of view of the person that got to tidy it up.
I think you do get in the first 2 episodes, certainly the Sydney character. This is a girl who has struggled to find a place, both in a sort of backward one-horse town and in a new family dynamic, in that they're not talking about her dad committing suicide. And I think in the second episode you get a lot more about the Stanley character as well, and I think that helped me, as well as obviously the sort of the things with the end of the effing world. It did have the look of it. It did also remind me a bit of Russian Doll as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if you get that.
I can see that.
This sort of mundane world, and then this sudden sort of ability, and sort of the sardonic nature of Sydney's character as well, put me in mind of the Natasha Lyonne character in that series.
It begins with her running covered in blood, and we don't know quite what is the reason for that. My favourite thing about Netflix, I think we can call them a broadcaster or a streaming giant or whatever, is these things that come out of the blue. They're not well publicised, they're not built up, and they just shock you and take you by surprise. I think you mentioned Russian Doll. I had the same reaction to it. I really, this might be my first favourite new show of the year, actually. I thought it was really good.
I think the term is content provider.
Oh, that makes me feel... I just feel a little bit sick in my mouth, then.
I think that's what we're meant to call them now.
Oh, a tiny bit sick in my mouth. Don't like that. We won't be using that phrase. No, I'm more happy for other people to use it, but I didn't want to, I had a roast dinner earlier and I was just a little bit sick in my mouth when you said that. Yeah, I thought this was good. I hope you find the time to watch the rest.
Yeah, no, I will do, and it's pleasing that. And I think I was in the mood for it last night, but it wasn't loading for me, so I decided to watch Gone Girl instead. Don't question my choices.
Sense. Right. I'm Not Okay With This is better than okay. It is all on Netflix now. Please binge it, because
I am really interested in those reviews actually that slated this, because I think, they play with those sort of teen, like we've been talking about Freaks and Geeks for weeks, those sort of teen archetypes. That's what we liked about End of the Effing World. That's what we liked about Euphoria.
Yeah. I don't know what it says about us in our sort of late 30s, that we're still drawn to the high school world. I don't quite know what it says about us, but it reminded, when I was watching it, I was thinking, I'm so pleased I like this, because we had the discussion last week of you talking about, if everything was like Last Tango in Halifax, wouldn't you be bored?
Yeah.
And it just shows me, in my ways that I have about TV, that if you've got an interesting or empathetic lead character, I will go on the journey regardless. I mean, I'm not a big sci-fi fan. No. I'm not that invested in telekinesis.
This wasn't that. This was a sort of high school drama first and a sci-fi fantasy show second, wasn't it?
And I also like the relationship between Sydney and George, because again, they reminded me a lot of Alyssa and
Stanley.
Stanley, sorry. Alyssa and...
It's gone.
James. Because they're not necessarily...
I was still trying to work out who George was.
Yeah, well, I can understand why you'd struggle with that. I think it's because they're not necessarily attracted to one another, but you can tell by her voiceover.
Similarities.
They're just comfortable in each other's company, and that character isn't comfortable in her own skin a lot of the time. And I like the tiny sequences that we see her with her younger brother. They have a nice genuine connection. Lovely show. Please watch the rest of it. There are only 7, and I think the longest episode is a whole 22 minutes long. Loved it. I'm Not Okay With This is very much okay, if not better. It's on Netflix now.